True or false? Mustard pillows are needed for babies to round their head.
No, they're not needed.
It's okay for my child to have a preference of one side.
No, it's not okay. They should be using both their sides equally.
Chubby babies walk later.
There's mixed evidence on this. One school of thought says that it's harder for them to manage their own body fat, but the second school of thought says it's all about exposure.
Early walkers equal smarter babies.
That is not true, but a kid who consistently reaches all of the milestones later can have some delays in school success, academic success as well.
Crawling is optional.
From a PT, no.
Massage can replace tummy time.
No.
If a baby isn't sitting by 9 months, it's definitely a problem.
Yes, we need to get it checked.
Parents can cause delays by holding babies too much.
Yes, and I've seen it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Conscious Indian Mama Pod. I'm your host Gunjan, and today we're diving into something that has kept all of us up at night at 2 a.m. Googling, why isn't my baby rolling yet? Why isn't my baby walking yet? I'm sure we've all been there, right? So today we have Megha with us. Hi Megha.
Hi Gunjan, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could make it. So Megha is a physiotherapist and a child development expert, and she's a mom herself to a 5-year-old.
Yes.
Right? Wow, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
So she's here to clear up all of our doubts about physical milestones and development that we might have for our kids between, let's say, 0 to 18 months of age.
Right.
Yeah. So I first want to know what's the story behind your page. How did Mommy Theories come into existence?
Okay, so when my daughter was born, before she was born, I was very confident that because I've worked with so many kids before, that I'll be able to manage the milestone part of it very easily. And then she was born and the postpartum hit, and I was in this haze. I totally blanked out. And so many things happened with her initial milestones. And I went to the pediatricians in the beginning, and I would point out that there's something going on, and I feel there's a tightness, something or the other. And they kept sending me back. Let's wait and see. It's nothing. You're just paranoid. Just this mom thing's happening. And eventually, when I got out of that postpartum haze, I got in depth into all of those things. I took things in my own hand. I did a lot of research, and then I was able to manage all of those things, correct all those delays on my own. And that got me thinking that I have medical background, and even then the pediatricians and the medical system is made so that they make the mom feel as if she's always overthinking, and there's nothing wrong and we should wait and see. So I made a WhatsApp group of just in my society, and I started telling all the moms what are the things to look for and how to help in the initial stages. And that group became so big that my husband suggested that you should, start up on Instagram and maybe target more moms who would benefit from this. So the main purpose of it is to simplify the medical jargon, to equip the parents with what to look for, to know the normal development so that they know where, if there's a delay happening, when to approach a pediatrician and when to hold their own, because that's really important.
Yeah.
You have a gut feeling, you have to hold on to that, and you'll only be able to do that if you know what to expect. So that was the beginning of this page.
Wow, beautiful. The intention behind it really shows in the content that you put, because it really simplifies a lot of things for parents.
Yeah, so we, in the beginning, I just started with explaining the developmental milestones and all. And then I used to get a lot of, because we are all so anxious
Yeah.
the first year, so I used to get a lot of DMs. So we started doing this Wednesday Q&As. So they'll be like, how long should we do the tummy time for? My child is 3 months, she's not rolling yet. Is that normal? Because my neighbor's kid is doing that and all. So we started doing that once a week. And I think it's been almost 2 years. Every Wednesday we're still doing it. And still we're getting like hundreds of moms are coming there. Anything and everything from breastfeeding issues and separation anxiety issues. Now it's gotten, because the people who started following me initially, now their kids are in school.
Toddlers, yeah.
Preschool. They started going to preschool. So
Yeah.
so they're growing with my daughter,
Yeah.
and we're handling the situations together.
Yeah.
So I go through them and then I tell them what's happening. So
That's
it's a fun community now.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
supporting each
sure.
other.
Awesome, awesome. So, just to simplify it for everyone who's listening, what exactly is a developmental milestone?
Right. So that's the basis of everything
Yeah.
on my page. So
Yeah.
developmental milestones are basically some benchmarks checklist of activities or skills that your child achieves at a certain point of time in their growth. So the first 1.5 years, we see a lot of these benchmarks, and what these do is they help medical professionals and parents evaluate whether the progress with which the child is developing is fine, or if there's a delay wherein you have to help intervene early on or not. So these are not rules. This is like an average guideline. So let's say 4 out of 5 children do these activities in this window of time.
Okay.
So if there's one who's not doing, it's worth looking into what's holding them back. So it's like almost everybody, all the kids will roll till 6 months, between 3 to 6 months. You will see independent sitting between 6 to 9 months. So this is like a checkpoint that mostly all the kids will sit independently by 9 months. If your child is not sitting by 9 months, you would know that this was the benchmark and my child is not yet sitting. So we can approach a PT or a pediatrician and see what's happening,
Okay.
where we're going wrong.
Okay, understood. So, let's make it simpler, and I'll call out an age, and you give me maybe 2 key milestones that the child will achieve in that range.
Okay.
And maybe an activity that parents can do to help achieve that.
Okay.
Okay. So, again, starting with 0 to 3 months.
So 0 to 3 months, we're focusing on head control, and we're focusing on mostly the child taking their hands to their mouth, getting into midline, grasping things, tracking, maybe visual tracking. So there are a lot of things, but mainly we want to focus on head control and bringing hands to the midline. Activities which we can do. First 3 months, basic activities are tummy time. And tummy time is talked about a lot, but I also want to point out side lying is very important as well, as much as tummy time. So we can do a lot of tummy time. So we don't want to do just tummy time. So tummy time is good. Playing in both the side lying with assistance, and bringing certain things that are easy to grab in front of the child, and contrast cards to
Yeah,
put, so that
yeah.
it helps with their vision development. So first 3 months we focus on this.
4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months is really important for rolling.
Yeah.
So for rolling, we will be doing a lot of side lying again,
Yeah.
because that is one position from which the child can roll in and out easily. And then we will also be focusing on supported sitting once the head control has come. So if the head control has come and rolling is already happening, then we can start with supported sitting as well.
Okay.
So key activities here would be flow time, of course. So you will bring in some rattles or some things to get the child to reach so that they can change their direction. Holding their toes is really important. So
Okay.
tying things to their feet, like rattle socks, a balloon, something or the other, because of which they'll grab their toes, that really helps them roll as well. So our focus will be, we say, happy feet activities.
yeah.
So anything because of which they'll hold their feet and they will try to roll here and there, and bringing in auditory and visually stimulating toys.
7 to 9 months.
So 6 to 9
6 to 9
months. Yeah,
months,
6
yeah.
to 9 months we'll be focusing on sitting. because this is a time for solids as well. So we will be doing a little bit of supported sitting from in the 4 to 6 months also. But independent sitting, getting in and out of sitting, all of these will be happening 6 to 9 months. And pivoting will be happening. Pre-crawling, we say mini milestones.
Yeah.
The things that we see like rocking back and forth on their knees, trying to get in and out of sitting, all of those things we'll be seeing in 6 to 9 months. Key activities now would be putting up these toys just out of reach so that they try to grab it. The more they try to reach onto something, the more they'll be working on their core.
Yeah.
So they'll be sitting properly. And there are 2-3 positions in which we help them play in to prepare them for crawling, like side sitting on all fours and
Okay.
putting a lot of weight on their arms.
Okay.
So in details, there are like a lot of activities that you can find online on my page, on other pediatric PT's pages. But just knowing that in this phase, these are the activities
Yeah.
that these are the milestones that we have to focus on, you will be able to do better with the activities.
True. And 9 to 12 months?
9 to 12 months should be focused on crawling if the crawling has not happened yet. And don't let the kid skip crawling. That is really important.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And then we'll be doing pulling up to stand. Sometimes a lot of kids also do cruising at this time by 12 months. So we focus on, it's not an activity, but we do a lot of baby proofing right now.
Yeah.
Because the moment they start pulling up to stand, a lot of things that are not heavy, they fall onto them, and that just pauses their progress. So we want to bring in a lot of heavy furniture, heavy duty furniture on which they can pull up to stand. And we want to make sure at this time fine motor skills are developing, their pincer grip is developing. So every little thing goes in their mouth. So we want to do baby proofing right now. That's very important.
Yeah. And lastly, 12 to 18 months.
12 to 18 months is again independent sitting and walking. So these two are the main things. A lot of other things are happening, but developmental milestones, motor milestones when we talk about, then it's walking. And first will come independent sitting, then walking.
Okay.
So again, you don't need a lot of things for walking as well. The same prep that you've done in the earlier window, that you bring in a lot of furniture pieces that are sturdy, and you give them like a baby-proofed area where they can explore and they can move around between the furniture. They'll be able to walk on their own. They don't need anything else. Oh yeah, if you want to bring in another thing, that toys that push and pull,
Yeah.
like the string toys they can walk
Yeah,
along with,
yeah,
they
yeah.
get really interested in those at that time.
Yeah. What about like push wagons and all that are really in these days?
Yeah, walkers. So there are two kinds of walkers. One is in which the kid sits
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
the round thing,
Yeah,
and just I see a lot of parents giving them giving the kids walkers around 6 months,
Okay.
and we don't want to do that.
Okay.
Those kind of walkers are really unsafe. They have those wheels, and the child goes really fast and is able to access a lot of things that's unsafe. They can tilt and fall. They cannot get out of that modality on their
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
So if that thing falls, they will also fall. So apart from the hazards, it also does not work on the muscles that we want to work on to help them to walk.
Okay.
So it's like when you are walking, so you want to work on the same muscles, you want the weight distribution to go the same way. When you put them in a walker, it doesn't. Then comes push walker. Now, push walkers are not that bad, but mostly, if you talk about the Indian market, the ones that I've seen here, they are all so lightweight
Yeah.
that when we give them too early, the kids put too much weight on it because they are not yet taking their own weight, they end up falling a lot. And initially, when they're still learning, if they're falling, they'll get scared of walking. So you'll see a regression in that milestone.
Oh.
So even if you have to give a walker, it's not really needed. They
okay.
can walk really without a walker. We say if you want to bring in a push walker, you bring in something like with has a lot of activities. So you bring in that around 6 months, but you use it for sitting activities. So
Okay.
you prop it in front of the child, let them play with that so that you get your money's worth out of it, right? And then you give it to them once you see that they are independently standing, they're balancing their weight on their own, then you give them. And also, there are a lot of things that you have to see that it doesn't tilt or it's heavier. I've not found any good quality push walker here.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of hacks with mine also.
Yeah.
I ended up just removing it at the end
Okay,
because you
okay.
get those as gifts.
Yeah,
Or the grandparents
exactly.
get so excited,
Yeah.
they send it. Like
Yeah.
6 months onwards, they start sending.
Yeah.
So we had two kinds.
Okay.
And I ended up not using any. And she
Okay.
just walked around with the sofa and chairs, and she learned
Yeah.
on her own. So it's something, yeah, you can go without.
Kian learned to walk on a stool. So there was this stool at my mom's place. We were visiting at the time, and he would flip it. So the open side was on the
Uh-huh.
top, and he would just push it and walk on it
Yes.
without wheels or anything. But he
Uh-huh.
would just push it and he would just walk around the house, and we were like, oh wow. And we had a push walker back in
Uh-huh.
Bangalore.
Uh.
So he kind of knew the concept that he can push something
Right,
and walk
right,
it,
right.
but it just worked perfectly. We didn't really have to buy anything.
So
new.
there is one kind of walker. I won't call it a walker. It's like a small table
Okay.
that's available in America.
Okay.
And it has kind of those balls at the end.
Okay.
And most of the PTs there use that to help the kids who are lagging
Oh.
behind in walking milestone. The patients who come in, they help because that has more stability.
Yeah,
The moment you
yeah.
add wheels,
Hmm.
a little push, and it just runs
It
away.
just runs away. That is
So
true.
if the kid does not have still their own balance, they don't know how to manage their own body, add wheels to it, they will fall.
True.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we went ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to the newborn phase. You talked about the different age group wise milestones, and then you also mentioned that every child is different and that it's just a benchmark and not
Right, right.
the rule as such. So, how does a parent actually know that, okay, now I need to visit
Okay.
or now I need to consult?
Okay.
You know?
So I'm really excited about this question.
Awesome.
Because every time I put a post about red flags in development,
Yeah.
I get so many comments on it. Maximum of the moms are saying, okay, this is scaremongering, this is clickbait, you should stop putting a post like this. We are already so anxious. Every child develops on their own.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything, they will do. My child did it on 7 months, it's fine. My child did it 11 months, it's fine. It's fine, yeah. But the whole point of having these checklists is that the parent knows where the child is going behind and goes to the right medical authority, gets it checked. It might just be lack of opportunity because of which the child was not able to get to that milestone, but it might also be some tightness, some neurological issue that might be holding the child back, sensory issue. You wouldn't know when to go to the doctor if you don't know what are the red flags.
True.
So it's not about scaring you, it's about equipping you with the information that this is the window in which most of 90% of the children are doing this milestone. If your child is not doing it, or it's been 1 or 2 months that that window has passed, you should go to the right authority and talk about it. So when we talk about the window of milestones, it's not that the child has to be crawling on 6 months, the child has to be sitting on 6 months. It's a window of 3 to 4 months usually. Like rolling, we see anywhere between 3 to 7 months.
Okay.
It used to be 3 to 6 months, we can still see till 7 months.
Okay.
If the child's not rolling or skipped rolling, jump to sitting, then there's something that's holding it back. The question isn't, my child didn't do rolling, how does it matter? The question is not how does it matter. The question is, why did the child skip rolling? If there is a chronological order to the milestones, then why is your child skipping one? That's what we have to see. So when it comes to sitting, we say independent sitting can come anywhere between 5 months to 9 months. And it's perfectly fine. Your child can be in the first half of it or in the last half of it, and they will still be normal. The development is all normal. if the child has not yet started sitting independently by 9 months, there is something wrong. So then you need to go check with your pediatrician or your pediatric PT, and you need to see why, what's holding it back, because there is definitely something wrong here.
Yeah. So maybe again, can we do another checklist here to make it easier for,
Okay.
let's say, rolling, sitting, crawling, and walking? Like, I
Okay.
think these are the four major milestones.
well,
So, give me a, if by X months my baby doesn't do Y, then go to a doctor.
Okay. So we say for rolling, 3 to 7 months, the child should be rolling. Sitting, child should be sitting anywhere between 4 months to 9 months. 9 months is your cutoff. For crawling, it's 6 months to 12 months. For walking, it's 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
So till 18 months is fine. If the child is still not walking by 18 months, then you have to go check it out.
By walking, you mean independent walking?
Independent
right?
walking,
Right.
yes. They will be cruising by 12 months, most probably. First birthday, almost all the kids are cruising. That is, they pull up to stand
Yeah,
and they start just taking hold of the furniture, they're moving around. But if they're not independently walking by 18 months, then that's a red flag.
You mentioned something very interesting a while back. I want to dive a little deeper into that about how children sometimes skip milestones and how that's not okay. So, my husband didn't crawl. And it is worn as a badge of honor that, oh, he didn't crawl, he directly walked.
Yes.
So, it's like the smartest kid on earth.
I know.
And
That's what I say. I tell parents that skipping milestone is not equivalent to skipping a grade in school.
Yeah, because even Kian, I wouldn't say he was a late walker, but he was not walking at 12 months. He was walking at 13, 14 months,
Huh,
okay,
that's
which is
perfectly
normal.
fine, yeah.
But, you know, grandparents, are he's not walking yet. So there was this thing, oh, no, sorry, not walking, crawling. He was a late crawler. He
Okay.
started crawling around 10 months or 9.5 months. Like he was
Okay.
right there, okay? And there was a lot of talk कि नहीं, he'll not crawl, he'll directly
the
walk.
dad skipped
देखना, हाँ,
crawling.
देखना सी एक दिन खड़े होके चलने लगेगा.
हाँ.
And I was like, ठीक है, मतलब I didn't know keep skipping is bad. I didn't know कि क्या है. I was like, ठीक है, we'll see what happens. I wasn't worried about it. But then I also recently found out that, you know, skipping milestones is not good. So, firstly, why is it not good? What happens when a child skips milestone?
Okay, so these milestones are placed in this order because one milestone works on the muscles that are needed for the next milestone. So rolling is basically working on your core muscles, and when your core muscles are strong, then you will be able to sit independently as well. When you're sitting independently, when you're reaching, getting in and out of sitting easily, then that will help you in crawling. Then when you're crawling, crawling has become a lot of discussion because CDC removed crawling from their list of milestones.
Oh.
CDC and AAP, American Association of Pediatrics, now say crawling is not an important milestone. But the PTs and OTs and anyone who works in our department who were not in that council when this decision was taken do not agree with it, because there are so many benefits of crawling that go on till school success as well.
Oh, okay.
So this is a hot debate going on that it's okay to skip crawling, but there are so many things that they will be able to achieve only in crawling, and it's such a small milestone that they will crawl only for those 4 to 6 months, and then their main source of the main mode of transportation will become walking.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to make sure that they don't end up skipping crawling, and even if it's towards the end, we incorporate crawling in some way or the other in play form so that they are able to get the benefit out of it.
Okay.
So crawling, if the child skips crawling, then there will be some, because crawling puts a lot of pressure on hips and shoulders. This will in turn help them standing in weight bearing on their hips and knees, and eventually walking, jumping, doing a lot of other sports activities. So this is why it's important that all the milestones are checked up rather than saying it's fine if my child is,
Yeah.
or if my child is doing a wrong form of crawling
Yeah.
or compensatory movements we see, and we let it go because it's just a go-to. in the
Yeah.
middle, and
Yeah.
they're anyhow not going to crawl for long, so it's fine, let's not do anything. All of those things are telling us that there is some tightness going on, there is something that is inhibiting the child from doing those activities, and those should be addressed.
So can you give us a few things that parents can do who are at the 10-11 month mark, whose kids are not crawling yet? Like what can they do to help that milestone?
Yeah, so we have 3 play positions: side sitting, both sides. Then we have high knee position, and we have rocking on all fours.
Okay.
We should put activities around these positions, and in every awake window, make sure that the child is playing while sitting in these positions. And then you bring in crawling tunnels, so that the child is forced into that position, that they have to go in, they cannot just hold on to something and
Yeah.
walk through that. They have to go in hands and knees and get in. So if you still don't see it by 12 months, usually what will happen by 12 months, they will start cruising, they'll be more interested in that, because that gives them a better view. The stimulation and the excitement from parents side as well,
Yeah.
so nobody really puts in effort for crawling. So the moment they start cruising and they want to do some walking activities, crawling gets skipped. Even if it's by 12 months or 11 months, if the child has started crawling a little bit, you would want to bring in some toys, some activities, some play, so that that crawling activity keeps getting prolonged.
Okay.
The
got it.
more they do it, the more help it'll get.
Okay, awesome. Now, after crawling comes walking. And walking, again, like I said, is wore as a badge of honor in India. Ki, oh, my child started walking at 11 months, my child started walking at 12 months, and there's a lot of competition there, right? And like I told you, Kian was a little late. Like, he started walking after his first birthday. And when he was not walking at 1, I started getting DMs ki, oh, he's not walking yet. Like, is everything okay? But you just mentioned that the milestone is actually till 18 months.
Yes.
Right. So, like, what's the deal here? Can you just do some debunking ki walking ka milestone actually kya hota hai and what is the right way to approach it?
So when we were growing up, we used to hear from our parents that on the first birthday, the child starts walking.
Yeah.
But actually, this child is cruising around with the help of furniture on their first birthday. And they consider that as walking. So, I think it's more like a hearsay that was passed on. They didn't have social media, they didn't have the resources to go
Yeah.
online and
Yeah.
see the list of milestones, and the doctors were not telling as much. So, most of the parents hear their in-laws or their parents telling them information कि 6 महीने तक तो रिड़ जाता था बच्चा, पहले बर्थडे पे चल रहा होता था, ऐसे वाली information, and it got mixed up.
Yeah.
So if the child is walking at 11 months, 12 months, it's all normal.
Yeah.
Till 18 months, it's all normal. A lot of children walk earlier also. So we don't say कोई जल्दी चलेगा तो there is no harm in it. So we see early walkers at 9 or 10 months also.
Oh, okay.
And my daughter started walking at 10 months.
Okay.
But it's fine. I feel the more time they are in crawling, the better benefit they have. So there's no point in rushing them into walking, because anyhow they are going to walk for the rest of their lives. If they are not, by 12 months, if they're not pulling up to stand, cruising, or leaving their hands to try and balance, then there's a red flag. So there are some mini milestones that we need to see at 6 months, at 9 months, at 12 months, that even if that activity has not come in, but the prep activity, if that has come in, then we don't need to worry.
Okay.
If we see at 12 months, the child is just sitting, they're not interested in pulling up to stand,
Yeah.
then that's a red flag.
Okay.
Because the child doesn't want to, every child would want to cruise by then. That is normal. And every child, 90% of the children will be walking by 18 months. So these are the checkpoints.
Okay. Then there's also this thing, right, that boys walk later than girls, or in general boys का milestone comes later than
कि girls
than
हैं तो
girls.
जल्दी
हाँ,
कर रही
girls हैं तो
होंगी.
जल्दी कर लेंगी and stuff. And I feel a lot of times because of that, boys tend to not get the right intervention at the same time. at the right time, right? So
yeah.
have you ever seen something like that in practice?
I've heard so many parents and grandparents, especially
Yeah,
grandparents,
yeah.
come and say that the development wise they are both different.
हाँ
कि ये चीज़ लड़कों में ज़्यादा होती है, ये चीज़ लड़कियों में ज़्यादा होती है. Scientifically, there is no reason why a boy would reach a milestone later as compared to girls. When we make a list of milestones, we do not have different ones for boys and girls. So the only difference which will come in a child reaching the milestone would be the opportunity that they get. The more floor time they get, the easier it will be for them to catch their milestones. The more coddled they are, the more they're held,
yeah.
less floor time they're getting, the later they will be reaching their milestones. So we see a lot of kids who are living with their grandparents or maybe whose major milestones were around winters.
Yeah.
They reach those milestones later on because the grandparents or the nanny always kept them on bed or in godi. They were bundled up too much in clothes. They were not getting enough floor time, so they were not crawling because winters came in the middle. They were not walking on time because of the weather and all. So opportunity plays a big role here.
Is there a way that we can actually give opportunities to kids during winters? Because we don't have centrally air conditioned homes in India, right?
So mine, I have a winter baby.
Huh.
So her main milestone of crawling and walking came in the winters.
Yeah.
So what we did was we put in, you get those floor tile foam tiles, and you can add on so many.
Yeah.
You can buy 8 ka set and you can just keep adding.
Right,
So
right.
one room we made for her. So we sort of like placed all the big furniture at the borders so that she cannot cross it. So we kind of made it into a big playpen. We covered the whole thing with a big rug and those tiles, and we just let her be.
Yeah.
And also putting them in one bodysuit.
Yeah, yeah.
Leave their feet open. Don't put socks. Don't put the footed pajamas. Just the ones that cover them up so that when they're moving around, their tummy, their back, everything is not exposed. And use oil heaters. We used oil heaters, made sure that the room was warm. And the more they will be on floor and exploring on their own, the better it will be for their development. So basically, we need to get it out of our mind that our child will get sick, our child would get hurt.
Yeah.
So it's just us holding them back.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially during winters, like you said, getting sick, ठंड लग जाएगी, bed पे रखो is very common.
So also, just remove the beds. That's what we did. We removed the beds. We put the mattress on the floor. And getting from and on the mattress, off the mattress, roaming around, it was so easy. No chances of falling. She's not going to roll and hit her head or something.
Yeah.
So once she started crawling, we just removed the bed. Everything came on the floor. We removed anything that she could pull up on and it will fall.
Yeah.
So preparing the environment is as important as giving them the opportunity.
True. Talking about floor time, Kian hated tummy time.
Okay.
मतलब मैं कुछ भी कर लेती थी वो the moment started rolling ना tummy time was impossible, next to impossible क्योंकि जैसे उसको डालो he would just flop back.
Right.
And उससे पहले भी I think 1 minute 30 seconds में he would start screaming to put him back. So firstly, why is tummy time important? I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about some things that we can do to engage kids in that.
Right. So tummy time is important because let's go back to this sleep to back approach that was introduced to prevent SIDS. This was sudden infant death syndrome. So what was happening many years back, there was no rule that we have to put the child to sleep on their back on a hard surface without any beddings and all. So there were a lot of infant deaths seen, and the correlation was that when they are on their tummy, when they're sleeping on their tummy, their airways get restricted, the amount of carbon dioxide that they have, and a lot of other things, because of which suddenly the infants were dying. So this practice came about, that this safe sleeping guidelines came in. Now most of the time, because the first 3 months they're sleeping, so when they're sleeping mostly on their back, now to equalize the muscle work, it's important that when they are awake, that they are playing on their tummy as well, so that not just one set of muscle is working too much and the other gets lagged behind. So also when they are in our tummy, they are in a C shape.
Yeah.
So it's mostly that they are like this.
Yeah.
When we put them straight on their tummy, so all of the back stretches up, their neck gets up, and they're able to take hold, put weight on their shoulders, and their head, neck, and upper back works. So this is a good exercise to help them get to head control.
Okay.
So the first 3 months, especially before they're rolling, it's important we do tummy time a lot. Now, I think most of the babies hate tummy time, because what we do is, when we hear tummy time, we just plop them on their tummy and then let them be. And of course they will hate it, because that's not the normal position that they were in. Their growth was in a C position, the fetus position, and now we are putting them in a different position. All the muscles are stretching and they don't like it. So what do? We start with incline. So when their head space is a little higher than their hips, and they have this incline going on, it's easier for them to manage, because there's less pressure on their chest. Then it also clears their vision, and they're able to see around. That's something interesting for them to do. You can, for kids who don't like it directly on the bed, I don't think you should be doing it on the floor on the bed for newborns anyways. You start doing it on your lap. You turn them on your lap. Their head should be clear. Let them pick up their head a little, go down a little, then you roll them back. When they start getting fussy, you roll them back. So you start, it's like, there are no guidelines that you start off with 5 minutes karna hi hai, 10 minutes karna hi hai. You start as they are able to tolerate, and then move on slowly. Then you just put them on your chest, do skin to skin, which is really soothing for them, because with mom, your smells, your heartbeat, everything's familiar. So you just put them on your chest and do an incline on a sofa or a bed. That's also considered tummy time. So when this becomes normal, then slowly you start bringing them on sofa or bed. You put a pillow or like a towel roll under their armpit, like going from here to here, so that this level is a little elevated. Then you prop something in front of them, some rattles, something to grab, the contrast cards right in front of them to look, so that it's interesting. Otherwise, it's too boring. Now, as soon as they start rolling, they will roll. No kid is going to be in tummy time once they start rolling. But that is the main aim of tummy time. It has to get you prepared to roll. If you're rolling, then the aim of it is already achieved. What you can do is, you can bring in some activities like, to get them a little more interested, like you bring in a water mat. You bring in some Ziplocs and put water and some peas or something and tape it to the ground. And let them do sensory play. Put a baking tray, put some water in it, something, anything that, even if they put it in their mouth, it's fine. And some of their wooden rattle or something. Or just let them play in the water, splash in the water. So even if you get 5-10 minutes of it at that time when they're rolling, it's good enough. So once they start rolling both sides, you can anyhow start with supported sitting. So you keep moving to the next one. So once one milestone is achieved, you work towards the next milestone. Inherently, the child will also start working towards the next milestone. So if you keep them stuck into the older exercises, they will not be interested in it. So
like, I've grown up now.
Yeah, they're programmed
next?
like that. What's next?
Okay, nice. Now, what if a child sort of regresses in a milestone? Let's say they were rolling and then they suddenly stopped for a week. Is that like normal, or is that something that parents should be concerned about?
If it's just for a week, then that's okay. Milestone regressions happen a lot. Sometimes when they're working on the next milestone, they forget the last milestone. So we hear so much that my child was rolling belly to back because that's what comes first, and then now they're working on back to belly, but they're not rolling from belly to back because they're so focused. They're all their capacity is focused on the next milestone. So sometimes they forget, but it comes back.
Okay.
So we're not worried when it's just for a few days and we see that the child is actually working towards the next milestone. So that will explain all of the work they're putting in. You can see milestone regression in cases like there was an environmental change suddenly. They go from their house to their nanny house. Suddenly they stop doing
Yeah.
the things they were doing
Yeah,
pehle.
yeah.
Like they were eating on their own. Suddenly they stop doing that. They want to be fed. Or even the bigger milestones like potty training and clinginess, separation anxiety, all of those also regress with change in environment, change in caregiver. There is sudden illness or something. It can happen. Those are really temporary ones. If it's like a week to 2 weeks and it comes back,
Okay.
then you don't need to worry. Then there are some which can be have an underlying causes like neurological causes, autism spectrum disorder, some sickness. So in that case, you will see there are no environmental changes. The child is not working towards another milestone.
Yeah.
There is no growth spurt coming in.
Yeah.
And the child was speaking and suddenly stopped speaking. Or a child was walking and they're not even in the any stage where they're working on any new skill and suddenly they stopped walking. So then you need to
Okay.
talk to your
Okay.
pediatrician
Okay.
and address it,
Hmm.
especially for eye contact, speech. These things are loss in these regression in these milestones can point out to autism.
Okay.
So
okay.
these are important.
Okay. Okay. So this was my next question. You might have answered it. Was who is my first point of contact when I see either a red flag or I see a regression in any milestone? Should I directly go to a pediatric physiotherapist or should I go to my pediatrician first? What is the order in which I should go about it?
So the good thing about Indian medical facility is you do not work on referral system.
Yeah.
Unlike America and Europe
Yeah.
and everywhere, where you have to go to the pediatrician and then only they will refer you
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
pediatric
Yeah.
PT. So the first 2 years you have to go to your pediatrician so many times for
Yeah.
vaccines. It's
Yeah.
a good time to bring about any concerns to the pediatrician. A lot of time pediatricians will say, let's wait and watch,
Yeah.
which happened with me as well. So next step for me was to connect with a pediatric PT, which you can directly go to as well. So we used to get a lot of, when I was practicing, we used to get a lot of pediatric PT cases, cerebral palsy cases, neurological cases, in reference from a pediatric PT, a pediatrician, but a lot of them would come on their own
On
as
their
well.
own, yeah.
They had a concern. I was more easily accessible as compared to the pediatrician, or the pediatrician said let's wait and watch, but their gut feeling kept saying there's something wrong. So they came to us directly. So it can be either or.
Okay. This reminds me, when Kian was, I think, 3 or 4 months old, my dad noticed that he has a preference towards one side. So he would only look on his left. He would not, even if we do something to make him look on his right, he would just like go back. And initially I thought, ki, theek hai, it's okay, like let's see what happens. But then the more I noticed it, the more I saw it that his everything he wants to do from that side, you know, it was a very, very strong preference. So I went to my pediatrician. I found a new pediatrician. I went to mine, did not help. I went to found a new one. She actually said that he might have a tongue tie, like a very small one, and she diagnosed him with something called as torticollis. And then we went through the process of sort of fixing that. We did activities and, you know, all of that happened. She referred me to a pediatric PT as well. And yeah, then that journey started. But I just sometimes feel so thankful to that doctor who actually guided me in the right way, because if I had listened to my original pediatrician, I would have just been like, हाँ ठीक है, let's wait and watch. So I wanted to talk a little bit about torticollis as well, because it's not really talked about in India much. What is it? Why does it happen?
Okay, so torticollis is tightness of one side of neck muscles. We usually mostly see it in adults, and people do not think that it can happen to kids, babies, because they're just born. How can their neck muscles be tight?
Yeah.
But the thing is that towards the end of the gestation, there's not much space for them to move around in the womb. So they're mostly stuck in one position, and they're usually facing one side only. So when they are born, one side is mostly tight as compared to the other side. And it can also be, the tightness can develop later on a little because of tongue ties or lip ties, or they can be just born with that tightness. And you will see a lot of signs of it, like they prefer feeding from one breast as compared to both. They will end up incorrectly latching or biting. They will have some red creases towards one side, and the most easily identifiable symptom is, sign is that when they sleep, they end up facing the same side. So what happens here is, when we do not address it at this point, they will start developing a flat spot, because their head is not yet formed, their skull bones are not yet fused, and it's very soft to help with the vaginal delivery. So at this point, the first 2 months, wherever position they get more pressure in, that's how it starts forming. So they'll start getting either on this side, or brachiocephaly, where there's a whole flatness in the back.
Okay.
This was the thing that led me to this page.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
my daughter had it.
Okay.
And I saw it, and I'm a physiotherapist. I went to my pediatrician. I said, she has tightness. She's looking at one side. I'm doing all of the things that you're supposed to do. Like you have to feed from alternate side. Every time you put them in the crib on alternate side, stretch it a little or something or the other. But I see there is some change in the skull.
Yeah, flat spot. Even
Already,
Kian started getting
second
that.
month, there was.
Yeah.
She said, it's fine. Flat spots are cosmetic. Nothing to worry about. Go back.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about it. As soon as they start rolling, as soon as they start sitting, this will be resolved.
Yeah.
Now,
Same.
yeah. So I'm a physiotherapist, right? And she is telling me that what my medical knowledge is not enough. So let's wait and watch. Because even if she gets a flat spot, it's fine. When she grows her hair out, it will all be hidden anyways.
Yeah.
So for the first 2 months, I was so caught up with my own body that I also didn't do a lot of research over it, and the basic knowledge I had for torticollis as well, I had exhausted on it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, maybe this is just, it will resolve on its own. We did stretches and we did everything. It was not helping. We started supported sitting. We got a floor seat as well, so that she's more off her back. And she was doing so much tummy time. I don't know how that flat spot came.
Yeah.
So then, what triggered me, when she rolled only on one side, which was her dominant side.
Right.
She rolled on one side, and then she started, I had to work towards the other rolling. Then when she crawled, she did a hitched crawl, which was not a normal both knee.
Okay.
She would put one foot and one knee.
Oh, okay.
So then I went deep dive into, when the crawl thing happened, I searched for all of the research material, and then I talked with a lot of friends who were pediatric PTs here, and everybody said it's fine. A lot of kids do it. Have you seen that Bluey episode where, so there's an episode in Bluey where Bluey is not crawling.
Okay.
And Chili, her mom is really worried that she's not crawling. She goes to the pediatrician, she's like, it's fine. Some kids skip crawling, it's fine. Then she starts bum shuffling.
Okay.
She's bum shuffling. Oh, it's fine. Some kids do bum shuffle. So anything and everything that the child is doing, pediatrician would say it's fine.
Yeah,
They do it.
they do it.
The pediatric PTs that I knew, they said it's fine. The grandparents started saying, your brother also did crawling like this. This must be genetic.
Genetic.
I was like, Can you guys not see there is some tightness
Huh.
that is not being resolved, and everything I'm doing, no matter what I'm doing, I'm not able to address it because the patients and the exposure I had was specifically in neurological cases and not as much in development cases. Then I tracked down a pediatric PT from US,
Okay.
and she specialized in this crawl.
Okay.
So when I went into there, I had a discussion with her, and then she brought in so many points that this is the reason, and all goes back to the torticollis, which was just I was sent back for that. That it's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
So because she had tight neck muscles, she developed tight back. That side back muscles got tight. That side hip muscle got tight, and because of that, the crawl pattern suffered, the rolling pattern suffered. When she started cruising, she had a dominant side. When she started eating, she had a dominant side. I had to, on every stage, I had to keep correcting it because I could not address it at the first 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
That is the whole the rage came to start. This page came from there. That
Yeah.
if I had the resources
Yeah.
and the backing at that point, that I would have addressed her torticollis, everything else would have sorted on its own. She would not have needed so much intervention at every milestone.
What are the long term problems that can happen if this is not addressed at all? Let's say the child is crawling, people are like, हाँ ठीक है.
हाँ.
They're having a dominant side in walking, they're like, हाँ ठीक है, and the child grows up.
Hmm.
Are there any repercussions that go through the school, college phase also?
Huh. So you see a lot of kids who have one side, their feet go a little outwards as compared to the other side. You see they have more their knee bends back a little bit more. They have a little bit change in their gait. Some kids fall more than the other kids.
Yeah.
See, all of those things, because a person who is not a developmental PT would not think from that perspective. So they will think, okay, my child is just clumsy. My child just keeps getting hurt. It's normal phase of development. Some kids are this way, some kids are that way. But so many things goes back to the formative years. We see a lot of patients coming into us, adults coming into us, who are a little more prone to get sciatic pains.
Yeah.
They have a little more knee pains happening, and because there is an imbalance in their body, all of those imbalances have come from the time they developed. Some kids are better at sports, some kids are more clumsy, are not able to do hurdles as easily as the others, because now we think that iska core, but kids are all running the same way. They're as physically active as the other kid. Why is it that one kid is better at hurdles and the other kid is not? Because जो उसकी muscle development हुई, जो first year में formation दोनों side equal नहीं हुई, या कुछ कहीं issue आया जो address नहीं किया गया उस समय, तो वो at the end बहुत आगे तक जाता है.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
that gave me goosebumps.
There was a pediatric PT who told me that you should get MRI done for your child because it seems like she has hemiparesis, this weakness of one side because of a brain bleed or something.
Oh.
And I said, I know that all of this sources back to the flat spot she developed. Because of the flat spot, she would not roll to the other side. Because of that, she developed the dominance. Because of that, she got the hip tightness done. Now, what I need is, I'm already doing stretches. I need more activities. I need to, if it's not, I want to a little more help to correct this, which I'm not able to do on my own. The ones who were in India, they couldn't even identify that this problem would be coming from the flat spot, because it's so well known that flat spot is just cosmetic.
It's just cosmetic.
Now, when the pediatrician says it's cosmetic, they mean that it will not harm the brain development. But what happens is, it does change your facial structures. So the kids who've had a flat spot, their head is not round. They'll have problem in wearing glasses. They'll have problem in wearing headbands because it's not round
It's not
enough.
round enough.
They will have more headaches when they make buns. So many things, because some facial muscles will be tighter as compared to the other. you will never be able to track it back down because you
Wow.
will not be following that child
From the beginning.
infancy.
Wow. I need a minute to gather my thoughts after this very intense segue that we took. Okay. Let's go in a different direction
Okay.
and talk about India's favorite topic, massages.
Okay.
ठीक है. Why are massages important for kids, babies?
Okay. So, massage helps with circulation, with bonding with mother, relaxation. So, it's an important aspect in bedtime routine. It gives them sensory stimulation, touch, which is important for self-soothing. And in some cases where there is like muscle tightness, it helps because it improves circulation. So it helps bring about a little bit of relaxation in that muscle. So the muscle tightness goes a little down, and if there's pain in the muscles, that also relieves.
But I think in 90% of the households, the massage is not done by a family member. It's done by the malish wali auntie
Yes,
that
the
comes.
japa.
Japa, or people, if they don't have japa, they hire people to massage their
Right,
kids,
right,
right?
right.
What about, like, how is that helping the child? Is that helping the child?
I personally really believe that the mom should be doing it.
Okay.
Because the most important thing about the massage is that it's a bonding time between the child and the mom. And all of these other people who come in, especially who are older, they have this thing that unless and until the child is crying in the massage is not effective.
Yeah.
And when you say, okay, the child is fussy, is not comfortable with the massage, let it be, they're like, no, this is how they'll become strong. Their
Ah.
bones will become strong.
Yeah.
Massage will not make the bones strong. You are not supposed to put so much pressure that वो उसकी लेग्स टेढ़ी हैं तो वो सीधी हो जाए मसाज से, वो सब होगा सिर्फ मसाज से होना होता तो फिजियोथेरेपी की ज़रूरत ही नहीं होती, मसाज ही हो रही होती सबकी. कोई एक्सरसाइज की ज़रूरत नहीं होती. We do not need to go to gym. We should only get massages done even as an adult, and all of our muscles will be strong. So that's not the case. I didn't even let my mom do massages for my daughter. I remember one time my husband's grandmother did one time. I asked her, because she seemed like, emotionally connected. It's like I asked her, would you like to do it? And she did. And she cried so much, and she would never cry with me. She cried so much. And then next day I said, no, I will do it. And then she said, oh, you're making your child too soft.
Yeah.
तुम उसको strong बनाओ, तुम उसको जरा सा भी रोने नहीं देते. But why should the child be crying in a massage or anything that's supposed to be relaxing? Right? So the main purpose of massage is it improves, if you see it therapeutically, it improves blood circulation. So the child will be able to sleep better. The child is constantly moving, so their hands and feet will be tired, their arms and feet will be tired. So that will help with sort of reducing the tension in the muscles and more one-on-one time with the mom or whoever the primary caregiver is for that matter. It could be dad, it could be the grandmother, but it's like you interact to the child, you sing songs, you talk to the child, the talks back to you, the child gets comfortable with your touch, the child's nervous system gets relaxed.
Yeah.
And that will happen when it's soothing. The moment the child starts feeling, oh, this is like attack on my system, there's no benefit to it.
Yeah. I think I massaged Kian till he was 8 months. Shuru mein to, like, my mom, my mother-in-law, everyone did it. But after a point when it was just us living, so I used to do it. But I think the moment he started sitting and moving around, he just used to hate it. And I still carried on for a month because I thought ki it's important, it's needed. Then every time I would do it, I realized that I have started dreading that time. Because it was such a battlefield कि अरे नहीं करना है, तुम वापस आओ, don't go there, come here. It became so unpleasant even for me कि वो तो क्या ही enjoy करेगा.
Right.
One fine day I decided आज से no massage. And the amount of backlash, oh my god.
That was a good decision.
मतलब हाँ, I was very strong. I'm very strong on my decisions which I take for Kian, and there's no talking me out of it. That is very clear to everyone in my house now. उस टाइम पे नहीं था. They were like, ये क्या कर रहे हो तुम, मसाज नहीं कर रहे पहले, because initially it started with कि okay मसाज वाली नहीं लगाएंगे, family members will do it. So that was a थोड़ा सा contention point. Then I stopped at 8 months. Like हम लोगों ने तो तुम्हारी 2 साल तक मसाज करी है, खड़े होके कर दो, क्या हो गया? I'm like, but I'm not having fun. He's not having fun. So what are we doing this for? There's no
Right,
point.
right.
And it's a very Indian thing to do it. In the West, no one's doing massages, and their kids are growing up fine, right? So it's not related to their growth
Right.
in that
Right.
aspect. जितना seriously हम लोग इस चीज़ को लेते हैं. So yeah, I mean, it's a touchy topic for me as well.
Initially, first 2-3 months, it also helps with a little bit colic. So
Yeah,
inadvertently, it helps with digestion.
Yeah.
How much ease they get after it, and i- especially for kids who have tummy troubles. But there comes a point where they start getting mobile, and now they don't want to stick around for anything for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If it becomes a battle, you let it be.
Yeah.
So there's no upper clock to it. You can do it as much as the child
Yeah,
likes it.
yeah.
You can continue like my kid likes it. So even right now, it's still a part of our bedtime
Yeah.
routine. We don't do whole body.
Yeah.
We do like she likes it when I do leg
Legs,
massages. Because they're running around all day.
Yeah.
So there will come a point where they'll be a little more.
Yeah, now Kian
interested
likes
in it.
the, like, if I just press his legs now, he'll be like, हाँ, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So that I just respond to what he
Right.
needs. It's
Yeah.
never been like a battle कि नहीं ये तो कराना ही है, ये तो कराना
Now
ही है.
anything that becomes forced loses its benefit.
Yeah, true. So I have a few videos here.
Okay.
ठीक है, talking about like massaging and technique and stuff. So there are a few videos that went pretty viral on Instagram a while back. I'll make you watch it. Just give a small description of what you're watching,
Okay.
and then just talk about whatever is happening. Is it okay or
Okay.
not? Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I've heard a lot about this. I think every massage auntie that comes says that you have to put oil in the soft spot, only then it will close.
Yeah.
And for flat spot also, for flat head also, they say that you have to massage the
Yeah, you
head.
have to like press it in a
Yes,
certain
and
way. हाँ.
that's how it will correct. So that is not true. The soft spot close on their own. You don't need to do anything for it. Instead, actually, because of the membrane and the proximity to the brain, it's recommended that you don't touch it at all. So when all of these people come and just pouring oil doesn't really matter. It doesn't have a benefit or a side effect. But the hand motion and the pressure associated with trying to close it can have negative effects
Oh,
also.
okay.
So you don't need to put any extra pressure. Their heads are really soft. So avoid that. The soft spot closes on its own between the back one closes between 7 to 9 months and the front one closes between 18 to 24 months, and it will happen no matter what.
No matter what.
Even if you don't do anything, it
Yeah.
has to close. And about flat head correction,
Yeah.
just doing side activities and side sitting, side lying, there is some basis to it. We need to provide some pressure to it, but head massage pressure is not enough.
Yeah.
So when they play in side lying position and we provide the counter pressure to the area that is not flat, then it sort of balances its own.
Okay,
So we do that, and the correction initial phases, if you've got it in like second month you see, and then you start doing from the opposite side, the recorrection will happen on its own. If you have not got it on time and it's 6-7 months already, then you might need a little extra help, like those helmets.
Helmets, yeah.
So you might need that at certain point where the growth becomes very slow, and no matter how much pressure you provide, it will not shape.
Okay.
Massage won't.
One more.
Oh my god. So this one, she's hanging the kid upside down with his feet, and with the head.
I've also seen people do it on all fours, like ऐसे हाथ पैर चारों को ऐसे साथ में करके
Okay.
just hanging the baby like this.
What is the concept behind it? Why they're
I'm
doing
asking
it?
you. You're the expert here.
The expert at that.
No, I mean, like, so I think it's just to, again, build strength. That's the idea that they're coming from. And this
Okay.
particular video that I just showed you actually went really viral. Like, there were a lot of backlash on it, rightly so. Ki, you know,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing this to kids. But honestly, I have seen it being practiced a lot. I have monitored Kian's massages, each and every one, कि क्या हो रहा है. I'm not doing it, ठीक है, you do it, but I will be there to make sure that none of these things are happening, none of the hanging and all this is happening, because this is very common even today in a lot of parts of the country.
Okay. I have no idea why. There is no reason why we would do that. Their hip joint is not formed yet.
Yeah.
Hip joint is a ball and socket joint. So it's like it has to be like totally round for it to hold the hip. And same as with their elbows, their shoulders. Initially, they have a lot of chances of the joint pulling out
Yeah.
if we provide too much traction. And for this reason, we do not encourage the babies to stand up too soon also.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be doing standing activities before they are 7 months old, because the hip joint is not formed well yet. And if they're putting too much pressure on their hip, it will form in a wrong way. So pulling a 2-month-old or 3-month-old like that, hanging them up, has no benefit. Might have some side effects at some point also. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know the trauma that the child goes through.
I mean, this child seemed happy. There was no, like, but I've seen children
Yeah.
crying through it too. But like we started this conversation, जब तक बच्चा रोता नहीं है, it's like
Yeah.
मसाज अच्छे से नहीं
हाँ,
हुई
कोई
है.
फायदा नहीं
Yeah,
होगा मसाज
yeah,
का.
yeah.
So there's no scientific backing to us doing these kind of activities to help them grow better.
Yeah. So moving on to some other myths around helping the child's growth and development. A lot of people also recommend certain tonics and certain, syrups to help your child grow faster,
Like
or
weight, height, or milestones.
all three.
Okay.
On Instagram and all, there are a lot of these tonics that are coming up. Ki, you know, they'll help you with speech development, or they'll help you with a concoction of 15 jadi bhutis and all that. So, is there any need or
No.
okay, no.
No. So I don't even give a milk mix to my daughter. If they eat first 6 months, of course it's breast milk.
Yeah.
Right? They get whatever nutrients they need from the mother, or if you're formula feeding, they get it from there. Post 6 months, you start solids. And then whatever, it's made, this process is made because whatever nutrients will start lacking, like especially iron, they get resource from their mother for mostly 6 months.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then that's why at 6 months you start, their digestive system is improved now, they can take solids, and then you focus on iron rich foods. Then once the growth slows down around their first birthday, now you focus more on solids and less on milks. That's how it's supposed to go. Normally the child goes into that picky eating phase where they start rejecting, because their body is not growing as much as it was growing in the first 12 months of their life, and the second part of their life has become a little slower. They don't have to gain as much
Yeah,
weight as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
They stop eating as much. All the parents and the grandparents start fussing, oh, she's not eating enough, he's not eating enough, so let's give supplements, let's give gummies, let's put something in the milk and give. If he's not eating, milk dete rao.
हाँ.
तो वो सारी चीज़ें are not helpful. They sort of reinforce the bad eating behavior. They don't need, if they're getting enough physical activity, they're getting basic nutrients from their meals, and they're getting, again, opportunity, good sleep, then they will grow. Growth is a lot genetic also.
Yeah.
If the parents are not very tall, the child will also not be very tall from the beginning itself. You will see some height patterns. So I also get a lot of questions from moms on my page. Height बढ़ाने के लिए foods बता दो, वेट बढ़ाने के लिए फूड्स बता दो. वी सी सो मैनी these moms who are doing recipes,
Weight gain.
weight gain
recipes.
foods. My God, I hate those recipes. I don't share. I don't share on my page either, because what is weight gain food? We should be focusing on providing all of nutrients. प्रोटीन होना चाहिए, और वो भी प्रोटीन की भी अभी बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. प्रोटीन वो 1/4 होना चाहिए प्लेट में. इतना नहीं चाहिए बॉडी को. एडल्ट्स भी पागल हो गए हैं प्रोटीन के लिए, और छोटे बच्चों को भी हमने प्रोटीन ही प्रोटीन देना है. थोड़ा सा प्रोटीन चाहिए उनको. 1/4 ऑफ द प्लेट शुड बी प्रोटीन. मेन source of energy should be carbs.
Yeah.
Then micronutrients should be there. Focus on that. Focus on, like, your main focus should be exposing your child to different foods, different varieties, making them fall in love with food, creating a happy space on the dining table. All we're focusing on is कि कैसे भी करके इसको लंबा करना है, इसको चबी करना है. पहले हम फोकस करते हैं चबी बनाओ, फिर जब वो 11-12 साल का चबी बेबी बन जाता है, तब हम फोकस करते हैं उसे पतला करो, अब उसे डाइट पे डालो. आई ऑल्सो गेट दीज 8-year-old 9-year-old बच्चे अभी चबी हैं, तो अभी उनको डाइट पे डालना पड़ेगा. क्या करें हम कैलोरी का? What is happening? Why is nobody happy with their child's physique?
God, yeah.
I get so many, because when I started breastfeeding, मेरी गायनैक ने मुझे पहली जो हमारी विजिट थी उसमें बोला था, see, you're breastfeeding exclusively, your child will be different from a formula fed babies, and you will have the formula fed babies in your family as well. Your child will look leaner as compared to the formula fed baby, and then people will tell you that your milk is not enough.
Yeah.
That is not important. You need to see how often your child gets sick, how easily they get to their milestones, and all of those things, how physically active they are, to see whether they are healthy or not, right? And I did.
Yeah.
Till now also.
Yeah.
Randomly. कमज़ोर सी है. उसके मुंह पे ही बोल देते हैं कमज़ोर सी है, तो पतली सी है.
मैं कल आई हूँ यहाँ पर ना, अभी कम इन एंड Kian is playing, मदर इन लॉ इज लाइक, ये पतला नहीं हो गया? यार अभी आए हैं यार.
बच्चे के सामने ही बोल देते हैं पतला सा है.
मैंने कोई बोला हम बाद में बात करेंगे, यू टॉक टू मी व्हेन ही इज नॉट अराउंड एंड आई विल टॉक टू यू वेरी नाइसली, बट उसके सामने मत बोलो प्लीज, इट्स नॉट नाइस. एंड वो अपना मस्त खेल रहा है, कार से खेल रहा है, कुछ कर रहा है, पतला हो गया. एंड इट्स नॉट द फर्स्ट टाइम. मेरी मम्मी भी अभी शी केम टू विजिट मी टू बैंगलोर. वैसे वीडियो कॉल में तो बड़ा भरा भरा लगता है.
ये तो सारे ग्रैंडपेरेंट्स का फेवरेट डायलॉग है. फोटो में तो थोड़ी भरी भरी लगती है, अभी तो कमजोर लग रही है.
Oh God.
So you see my pictures from this age. I have pictures of 5-year-old me. I had the same body structure.
Same, exactly. Actually, my husband was a little on the heavier side, and I was on the leaner side growing up. And that's where the problem is. अब Kian मुझ पे चला गया, वो मेरी गलती तो नहीं है ना.
And then when puberty hit, पूरा body structure मेरा change हो गया. Through till from 13-14 till I got married, I was never a lean girl. मुझे वो था, हम पंजाबी में खाते पीते यही बोलते थे. And I'm thinking the same thing कि अभी उसको भर भर के चीज़ें घी डाल के एक्स्ट्रा कैलोरी वाला फूड दो. वो प्यूबर्टी के टाइम तक ही बच्चा हैवी हो जाएगा. प्यूबर्टी में फिर जो उसके हार्मोन्स की वजह से उसको बॉडी शेप आना होगा, वो पहले ही चबी है और मोटा हो जाएगा. पूरी लाइफ फिर वो स्ट्रगल करता रहेगा बॉडी इमेजेस से. लेट द चाइल्ड बी. अभी तो उसने अपना एक्चुअल बॉडी इमेज तो आया ही नहीं है.
या आई थिंक वही द रेस की और द कमेंट्स, आई थिंक इट्स मोस्टली अराउंड व्हाट अदर पीपल आर फीडिंग इनटू योर ब्रेन एंड हाउ मच यू लेट दैट इम्पैक्ट यू.
The society is built like that, because we see magazines में, ads में, those chunky babies. कपड़ों की ad में chunky babies are cute. So those are cute, वो healthy baby है. And then you see adult magazines, you see slim girls. So that is the right, and the baby is the right. तो वो बनाओ, वो focus है सबका.
That is true. So you know when Kian started walking, the first thing my mummy said is कि चप्पल खरीदो इसके लिए. And we've all grown up wearing chappals in house, right? But I had read somewhere कि chappals are not really good for kids, especially when they started walking. Right. So can you debunk this a little bit about shoes and footwear? When should we start putting them in shoes, and what kind of shoes to use?
So when they're still learning to walk, we want to keep them barefoot as much as possible because they get feedback through the small muscles of their feet,
Okay.
and that helps them develop balance and coordination as well. They will use their small muscles to grip the floor, so they'll be more confident about that when they keep getting the sensory feedback. So we say that you should start using shoes once the child is confidently walking independently for a few weeks.
Oh.
Before that, no shoes. So indoor, keep them barefoot, or if it's like cold, you don't want to keep them barefoot, maximum the socks with the grippy
Yeah.
things at the end,
Yeah.
give that. But don't put them in shoes. It hampers their progress with walking. Then let's say your child started walking, first steps were there 11 months, okay? But it will still take 3 to 4 weeks to become confident walkers. So that is the time we let them be barefoot. Then after that, only for outdoor, if you're taking them to park or something, get them shoes. Now the shoes that you want to get them should be lightweight. They should have like a velcro to adjust,
Okay.
if possible, and their soles should be flexible, कि वो पूरा ऐसे मुड़ जाए. जितना उसका कम वेट होगा उतना बॉडी को अलग से एफर्ट लगाना पड़ेगा पैर को मूव करने के लिए. सो एडेड वेट होगा, क्योंकि अभी तो हम खुद ही सीख रहे हैं चलना, हम अपना बैलेंस बनाना सीख रहे हैं, उसमें हम पैर में कुछ ऐड कर देंगे, वो हमारी सेंटर ऑफ ग्रेविटी मूव करेगा और एफर्ट लगेगा बच्चे का. सो लाइट वेट, flexible, breathable shoe which has a velcro closure for क्योंकि पहले उनके चंकी से पैर होते हैं, तो पैर शू में घुसाना भी मुश्किल होता है. So something that opens easily, but then you can close them so that they get some stability from it. So then later on, as they keep becoming confident, running होती रहेगी, फिर हम उस पर different shoes add कर देंगे. But still सारा टाइम चप्पल पहना के रखना बच्चे को is not recommended. It's not recommended, also not beneficial for them.
Okay.
The more they are barefoot inside, indoors, the more you can keep them barefoot, the better they'll get to all the skills.
Okay. Okay. But what about like when they're learning to walk, like you said in the initial 3-4 weeks, but we have to step out. उस time पे भी no shoes.
हाँ, तो you can look for these cloth booties. जिसका अपना अलग से कोई स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता, बट वो थोड़ा मोटा फैब्रिक होता है, वो बंद सा जाता है उसपे, तो कुछ प्रोटेक्शन मिलेगी, बट इट वोंट बी लाइक अ शू जिसका अलग से नीचे फोम, फोम वाला सोल ना हो, बिकॉज वी वांट देम टू गेट मैक्सिमम फीडबैक फ्रॉम देयर फीट राइट नाउ. सो यू कैन डू दैट.
एंड व्हाट अबाउट क्रॉक्स और दोस वो जो
Crocs are so bad. Even for older kids, they should not be using Crocs.
Okay.
Crocs have no grip. Crocs are not flexible. They look like they are wide and a little low maintenance because उसमें गंदा नहीं होगा and all of that. But पैर stable नहीं रहता उसके अंदर. So it keeps moving here and there. The muscles have to work extra to grip that Croc, and it gives those burns to the feet. And we want the feet to fit on the we want the shoe to fit on our feet, not the other way around. We don't want our feet to work to keep the shoe in place. That's why Crocs, the slippers, वो जो V वाला slipper होता है जिसको grab करना पड़े बच्चे को, पीछे strap वाला भी, but वो आगे निकलता रहता है पैर, all of those are bad for kids. Even the kids of my age, 5 साल 6 साल, avoid Crocs, avoid chappals. Shoes maximum होने चाहिए. Wide toe are the best ones. Then जितना lightweight हो सके उतना, and velcro closure वाले हों. Flexible shoes ढूंढो. Those are best.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Megha, this has been great. Lovely talking to you. We digressed a lot, but I think all of the topics we talked about were really important, and I really hope that this reaches the parent who needs to hear it, because a lot of things we talked about are not talked about, right? And I think because we've both been in the similar situation with our kids, so we were very passionate about it too. So again, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
It was a lovely conversation. I like to end each episode with this segment that I call the mom pause, where basically we just sit and pause for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so the idea is that moms don't really pause. They don't really take a break from
True.
anything. So this is an opportunity for not just us, but anyone who's listening to us to just give 2 minutes to themselves and just sit in silence with some music and a positive thought.
Okay.
Okay. So the thought for today is my child learns best through love, play, and connection. I think it's very in line with our entire conversation. So we'll just play some music and everyone will just sit in silence for 2 minutes.